Like life, politics is all about emotions and symbols. The discipline called art does not have a monopoly on creativity, and politics does not have a monopoly on real existential change. And if you are wondering how to gain an endless amount of power, I have a life hack for you. Just hire more artists. Yes, it's possible to achieve unity through propaganda for dictatorship, but art also can be used for other purposes, including nonviolent resistance. I divided my talk into parts. First, why will it work in theory? Second, how it will work in practice. So, art is an effective tool to engage people in actions and bring them together to find the decision collectively. Because through focusing on emotions and stories, easier build connections and trust between each other. So it's the best ground for solidarity. Also, art is about vulnerability and nonviolent approach. And nonviolent protest is an effective one, since if authorities will try to prevent it somehow, especially violently, it undermines their legitimacy extremely fast. We are living in the beautiful time when tolerance to death, pain and violence at the historical minimum, and we need to use it. A lot of protests started with full scale and force after first violent actions from state. As Hydra, civil society is renewable. So when one of the creatures had cut off, one or more grown back immediately. But it doesn't mean that you need to go and provoke police to hit you just to make other people rise up for the protest. Don't do it. And last point, boredom is counter-revolutionary. Oscar Wilde said, if you want to tell people the truth, you would better make them laugh. Otherwise we will kill you. And thanks to creativity, art stimulates people to think out of the boxes and brutally question comfortable order of the things in the playful way, so no one's feeling will be hurt. After all, I wouldn't be convinced if someone told me that a few idealists with brushes and paint can overthrow military dictatorship. So how it will work in practice? My path of activism in Russia started around 3 years ago. We went to the protest during International Women's Day. We talked to people about new law that need to be accepted by parliament to regulate domestic violence. Unfortunately, after 1 year of activism in this specific field, I realized that it's not working, not only because minorities are targeted, but also because the system itself and process of decision-making is wrong. It's not going, it's corrupted, it's too slow. So it would make sense to start from the system. And my first political action was in summer 2020. After COVID, after first lockdown, we had a referendum. Parliament proposed to rewrite constitution, so our president, Vladimir Putin, basically can stay longer until death. It's pretty popular move in dictatorship to rewrite constitution, and I wanted to know what people think about it, because I will not know it otherwise, since elections are not transparent. They were wearing costumes, we had a funny poster and some decorations. We looked harmless, so people somehow start to trust us. They tell us their story, why they not politically engage, why they, for example, abstain voting, because it's a big thing in Russia. And after 1 week of this performance, when we were skating on the street, we had a group of people who joined us, and we started to do our things and continue our work. But there's few photos from the street actions. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of them because we needed to delete. But when it was colder, closer to winter, we moved to we decided to find another target audience. We applied for Modern Art Biennale, what took space in the State Museum. And the main topic of our installation was culture of silence and societal atomization. There is a short description, I will read it to you. The culture of silence stands on the basis of oppression. It starts small, as a normalization of domestic violence, and ends up with great political injustice. Silence is an easy way to put problems in the blind spot of agenda. Now it's a long time past to move political conversations from static kitchens to public spaces. Maybe if you're living in democracy, the whole paragraph doesn't make a lot of sense. But for young people who felt like they have some potential to speak up, it was important to find the way when we don't have an official one. So every artwork was dedicated for importance of speaking up and showing our vulnerabilities. There is a name of exhibition. I think the most correct translation will be "A silence is a violence." And what could have gone wrong? On the one hand, we had open-minded curators, target audience, and artists. But on the other hand, strict administration of museum. And I wouldn't say that we were narrow-minded. They just were under a certain degree of self-censorship. And 2 days before opening of exhibition, we walked around and said, remove this, remake this, and just maybe cancel the whole exhibition. We had 2 options. Remake everything according to their instructions, or convince them. The next days we were cooperating with whole art group, because we were not only one who faced censorship. We contacted local media to share our stories, and we proposed a compromise by inviting independent group of art critics to approve this exhibition, so we don't have only 2 sides in this conflict. After 1 week of work, we walked around the exhibition again to approve or disapprove it, but this time we had much more people. It was independent commission, curators, administration, journalists, and artists as well. Few art critics said that we can keep our installation in the same way, but put age limit for minors. I was 16 at this point, and I don't know what we wanted to hide. Another part of critics told us that there is no space for politics and art, and we're all extremists. We ended up with removing 1 artwork. There is a photo on next slide. The text reads evacuation plan. There is a map of Russia and labyrinth inside. It was dedicated for few fires that happened basically because of the corruption and indifference. It was dramatic, and we decided to make this work. Even though we removed it from exhibition, a lot of people saw the photo of this because we shared it in local media. So was censorship successful? Not really. It made artists work together to fight it. It made case study to a museum, and as I said before, a lot of people saw the photo of this artwork anyway. What I'm trying to illustrate by this story, if a piece of art resonates with audience and it probably represents social moods and ideas that already were floating in the air. Art is multi-semantic by definition, and it implies multiplicity of interpretation. So censorship is powerless, because you don't need to say your statement straightforwardly. Your target audience, who share concerns and experience, will get you by interpretation of used symbols. It's not about being fearless. You need to be brave enough to show your indifference. And not everyone is ready to take risks and have face-to-face confrontation. But by showing your vulnerability and freely sharing your stories, you will be able to create an efficient support system to make political involvement as safe as possible in certain conditions. So, art is a powerful tool to communicate your values. Stay safe, do art. That's it.